Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, a regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining us this afternoon, we have Liz Centoni, EVP and Chief Customer Experience Officer at Cisco, Ravi Sundararajan, co-founder and managing partner of AISpace Venture Fund, and Danny Allan, Chief Technology Officer of Snyk. We're here to discuss best practices for implementing an enterprise AI strategy for improving the customer experience. It is great to have everyone with us. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Trade Talks. And Liz, I'd like to kick it off with you. How is artificial intelligence, how is that working to improve the customer experience?
Great question, Jill. I'd start off by saying that, today we have mostly a one-size-fits-all experience, and it gives us the opportunity to go to something that's truly unique. And I can give you an example of that. We do guided adoption journeys very infrequently today. Think about in the future where we can actually provide context of the environment and take into consideration all different skill types of the users, whether they are super users to newbies. Another example of where you take a support call, you can get faster to a root cause analysis when you bring in more context, whether that's on product documentation, release notes, peer benchmarking. We've talked about predictive. Predictive has been something that I think we've talked in the industry for 20 years. It becomes more of a reality with AI, where you almost have a crystal ball. I was going to use this example and then was a little reticent to use it, talking about, over the weekend, we had a conversation about upgrades with a customer, and we had to roll back an upgrade. Like I said, given the environment, I'm a little reticent about talking about that, but it was a config issue that caused us to roll it back. And the ability to anticipate such config issues or config errors, performance bottlenecks, security vulnerabilities, AI gives us the ability to do it because we're talking about managing like massive amounts of data. As I say that, it sounds great. All these awesome experience use cases that we can do is we did this AI readiness index with about 8,000 of our customers. More than 97% said they had an urgency to deploy, but only 14% were really prepared to deploy. So leaders have vision when it comes to what I want to do with AI, but they're not really prepared for the challenges when they come up.
Right. And that's a great finding from the index. And we're certainly going to spend some time on that. But Ravi, when you, AISpace Ventures, when you're thinking about the portfolio companies that you're investing in, what are some of the key ways that they are looking to help enterprises improve their customer experience leveraging AI?
Yeah, as Liz mentioned, I think, we've been talking about predictive AI for quite some time. And finally we see enterprises realizing the benefits. But when we look at AI's, investments, one of the new things that's coming up with is, obviously there's the first phase was around automation using a lot of machine learning and automating predictive tasks and automating repetitive things. But the more important thing is now, how do you personalize some of this? And actually, we call it empathetic AI. That's kind of the theme that we have seen in some of the startups that we have invested in, where you try to deliver human equivalent interactions. And here, the personalization part, actually, we think of three things. One is personalized services, deeper engagement, where you use multimodal chatbots that enable enterprises to seamlessly interact with their customers over text, voice, and video. And the third thing is, how do you improve the marketing and sales efficiency using AI tools, for more efficient content generation, sentiment analysis, and stuff like sales analytics and CRM. So overall, it elevates the level of customer experience that they're seeing, where it's just not about making processes faster, but it's about creating unique, immersive, emotionally intelligent interactions that respects the customers individually and all individuality and autonomy. It's about AI becoming an integral part of the business ecosystem, where it anticipates customer needs, values and respects, and empathizes with customers, and truly, delivers a real, unique customer experiences and really engaging experiences that kind of improves the level of, all dimensions of customer service.
So Danny, it's interesting because your research parallels with the index at Cisco, where you leaders are rushing to implement some sort of AI strategy or some AI product to go to market, but they're also concerned about security as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We had done a study back in 2023 of over 500 enterprise organizations, and actually 86% of them had grave concerns about security. Now, that shouldn't slow us down, would be my argument, because we live in the development world here at Snyk. And one of the things that we're doing is helping customers to develop really fast. But you want to do that securely. And so you see these organizations adopting tools like generative code AI techniques, which is a very powerful thing. And we shouldn't slow that down. In fact, I think 96% of the organizations we talk to were using some kind of generative AI or AI within the development practices. But we need to be aware of what that means for the business, because there are security concerns. If those LLMs that are generating code are trained on insecure code bases, then of course what you're doing is introducing new vulnerabilities that you need to test. So we're a big proponent of adopting AI and using it, but ensuring that you have the right policies and guardrails in place to make sure that the business is protected.
Yeah, and let's spend some time in that for a moment, because as you're walking customers through data preparation and governance and the best strategies for implementing an AI solution that's going to work well for the enterprise and of course for your customers, what are some of those best practices in order to customize that for your customers?
I would start with saying, so agree with the number of things that Ravi and Danny have already talked about. An organization needs to have a sustained kind of commitment to rethink of infrastructure, data, governance, talent, and culture, right? So as you think about putting AI into production, you have to consider different questions than what you did when you were just experimenting with it or just maximize the raw AI performance, for example. You've got to think about accuracy and efficiency. How do I leverage my data, for example, to optimize the AI system I'm putting together for the use cases, by the way. And I said, when I think about data, I always think about use cases first, not just creating this one giant data lake, for example. Accuracy and efficiency, like Danny talked about. How do I leverage my data to optimize, for that? Scale and reliability. Can the AI system that we're putting into place scale for what we need in 6, 12, 24 months? When I think about in CX, there's a rich set of use cases that go far beyond just experimentation to where you can get real ROI. But I don't know, in 6 to 12 months, we might find a whole host of new use cases as we do this. So how do we scale to be able to do that? Will the overall AI system have 5 nines or uptime, for example? And then agility and flexibility. How fast can we, be flexible in terms of adopting new technology? Every week on Friday, when I feel like, okay, I've got a better handle on this, come Saturday, I feel super dumb again, right? And avoiding things like vendor lock-in. The space is changing so fast. And to touch on what Danny talked about is beyond the consumer AI risk of like bias and toxicity, every enterprise needs to be thinking about, what are the risks that I need to mitigate when deploying AI? A number of customers are asking us about explainability, for example, in terms of, the algorithms that you write, the output of these systems. And then lastly, the return on investment. More and more as we move from just pure experimentation to actually prioritizing is what's the return on investment that you're going to get, whether it's the automation and efficiency that Ravi talked about. And he also added things around, how do we anticipate customer needs? These are all the things that will come up as real solid return on investment. Some you can quantify and others you can't.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point that Liz makes, Danny. There's always that balance that you need to make when you're trying to, whether you're talking to the C-suite or to the board, looking for those resources to deploy capital to different areas of the tech stack, right? So everyone's kind of fighting for a piece of that pie, but you also want to be mindful of your cybersecurity needs, as well as not stifling innovation within the organization as well. So that really is, the balancing act, I think, across, well, I don't want to call it silos, but across, all the orgs within the enterprise that leadership needs to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. The provenance that Liz touched on is so important, being able to prove where the suggestion came from and prove the value of it to the board. Because one of the things that we've seen is that the board or senior leadership are 2 to 5x less likely to see the risk. And so you want to show the value of it, but you also want to ensure that they understand the guardrails and the controls that you have in place, because things are changing fast. Actually, from day to day, there's new models literally coming out on a continuous basis that organizations are playing with, and understanding why you're using different models, when to use them. Is data staying internal to the organization? Is it going to the cloud? Is it contributing to someone else's IP? Those are things that you absolutely want to prove value to the board by ensuring that you have the right guardrails in place.
Right. And Ravi, another, thing that you had noted as well, according to Gartner research, deploying AI in a way that does improve customer experience and being more efficient when it comes to cost, you could cut costs nearly by 80 billion because of these efficiencies put in place by understanding the customer better.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, today, I was surprised to see a survey that said 66% of the organizations that they surveyed want to use AI to improve the customer experience. So the intent is there. And now the savings are huge because, if you can take the customer service, customer experience cost, it's just not just customer support, but it's also about, better sales efficiency, better acquisition, better retention, better engagement. So it's all across the entire customer life cycle. The customer experiences spans across the entire life cycle. So if you take that and say the cost of having empathetic AI agents that actually understand, can anticipate, can do a 360-degree feedback. In some cases, there are retailers using it for people to just even try on the dresses, look at furnitures, how they'll look in your living room, play all those simulations and stuff like that. So the intent to adopt is there. But as Danny mentioned, Liz also mentioned, how do you, when you actually take this and try to get ROI, try to implement it, how do you get the data all in one place? Because today, a lot of the customer data is sitting in different things. There's CRMs, there's customer support databases. So the different data lakes that are sitting. And so how do you get all the data in one place? How do you make sure that they all get trained? How do you make sure that it's secure? And so on and so forth. So there are lots of, from terms of implementation capabilities, security, configurability, accessibility of the data, and who gets access to it, levels of control, and so on and so forth. So the implementation aspect is where they need the most help, and that's where the ROI will be seen. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that area, but the savings and the ROI is really possible, and there are billions of dollars that could be saved. And your revenue rate of acquisition and retention engagement will also improve dramatically. There are organizations that have seen, even big banks like Bank of America, you see they have an agent that does that, Erica, and so on. A lot of big organizations have seen incremental savings and ROI. But how do you sustain it and make sure the security, implementability, configurability, and all this stuff is maintained? That's the most important thing, and that's where they need the help. From experts.
Well, Liz, let's lift the curtain back for a moment here. How has Cisco benefited from leveraging AI?
Across the board, actually. And, I would say is, if I step back from generative AI, ML and AI is something that we've used in our portfolio for a long time. When you have this massive amounts of data that you have at hand, like just even in application monitoring, we do dynamic baselining of an application behavior, right? That was pre-Gen AI. I think Gen AI takes it to a completely different level in terms of like the example that Danny and myself brought up around predictive, for example, makes it more of a reality versus a dream that was always there. So we use, AI in our production, in our product or development organizations, in our sales organization, HR, legal, all of them. But in CX, when I think about this, right, outside of the use cases across the board, whether it's in customer support, whether it's in the adoption journey, I often ask my teams around the fact that, when you think about your time that you're spending, whether it's around delivery services in the field, once we've sold something to a customer, how much of that truly is like problem solving versus the rest of it is just rote? And even though that we've done a lot of automation and scripting, I would bet you that the majority of the time, it's more of a 60-40 split, with 40% being the problem-solving parts of it. So I still think that automation and efficiencies, we've been at it for eons, right? We're taking this to a different level and giving our teams the ability, when I think about efficiency, around thinking a little bit more creatively around new ways to like solve the problems. And I flip it around and think from a customer standpoint. Using the example of a customer who wants to keep their environment more resilient, more secure, for example, they spend a lot of time doing that. Now, if I can minimize the amount of time that they have to spend on it, because we're making the experiences, as Ravi pointed out, more personalized, more proactive, more predictive, that gives them time to think about more revenue generation. So while some level of automation and efficiency would mean cost savings, I also think there's a portion you can take it around and put it through. Think about like new creative stuff in terms of, better experience, revenue generation, and we have yet to see a lot of those come through.
Yeah. And Danny, so when you think about this, let's say in the next 2 to 5 years, our conversation the four of us are having right now could look very different. So when you think about the future of AI and CX, the customer experience, what do you think that looks like? Because to Liz's point, we are going to learn what those solutions could be based on the problems that we're looking to solve right now.
Well, I think it's going to evolve into different streams of AI usage within the organization, to Liz's point. One is how we use AI internally. So, for example, we're using it for efficiency internally as well, for sales, for support, for, deal desk optimization. So all of those models are going to get better, and it's going to make the organization more efficient. But I also think we have to think about it in terms of how we put AI into our products and services. So whether you're at Cisco or an investment organization, or you're at Snyk, using AI within your products to make your customers better, because what you're doing is you're preemptively helping them do those things to make the business more efficient. For us, we've been doing this as well for a long time in terms of using symbolic regression analysis and techniques to do static analysis. And then I think as organizations, we have to think not just about how we put AI within our products, but how do we as an organization go out and help make AI itself better? And that could be at an industry level. And that could be as simple as feeding in intelligence into the greater AI knowledge base, if you will, on giving answers to organizations to help them, again, with that efficiency that they need internally.
Yeah. And Ravi, I'm going to wrap this up with you as you think about the future of AI and the customer experience and the kinds of portfolio companies that you want to be advising and investing in. What do you think this looks like in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think there are three new areas that are emerging a lot. One is, I touched upon it, which is multimodal. AI is just not about text or voice or even video. When you put all of them together, you can actually create avatars that are actually, give you, and with other advancement, human-like interactions that can actually anticipate customer needs and be more personalized. And the other part is, the engagement part is people haven't even seen it, because we haven't even imagined with AR, VR, and all the other things coming in, you could just go and actually, make it tailor-made. You can say based on the past history, past behaviors, what they've done, what type of questions they've asked, what type of products they're using, what type of products they prefer, you can recommend those products. And that's where actually more than just savings, it'll actually improve the way you engage with customers, improve the experience, improve the revenue generation aspect of it. And the third thing is, as Danny pointed out, security is very important. Think about it. Even now today, if I'm having a conversation on a multimodal chatbot, a video chatbot, or even if it's audio, there's information that can leak. Data loss can happen. Even in Zoom today, a lot of the tools that are there don't address things like what if by mistake I send something in Zoom chat or a multimodal chatbot, what happens to all that? So the earlier generation of companies, the security companies, are looking at different things like threat protection and firewall and all that stuff. But in addition to doing that, how do you use these rules? How do you be able to do that and do a different level of security? Because that'll become important. People don't want data to leak through some of these new forms of communication, new forms of experience. So security is a new aspect of it. The third thing is, how do you get data ready? How do you make it all experience very, very, very seamless? So I think we're just getting started, where you can actually create these multimedia, multi forms of interaction and have true, real virtual experiences that we are not able to provide today. And for that to happen, it's a combination of the compute, data management, security, middleware, all of them being ready and moving along with the company.
All right. Appreciate everyone's insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.